Hey guys, it's Christy and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about my top 3 in every makeup category, face edition. So before we get into it, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel before you leave. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy, and let's get into it. Okay, so I decided to break this video up into 2 parts. I've been wanting to do this type of video for a long time, but I honestly found it so daunting to go through 3 favorites in every single category until I started to see people breaking it up into 2 parts. And I decided that is what I need to do. So eyes, lips, brows, that will be a full separate video coming up. But let's just get into it, starting with primer. And this right here is where I immediately broke the rule because there's supposed to be 3. But there was only 2 that I felt strongly enough that I wanted to have in here. The first one I spoke about very recently is from Dior, and this is their face and body primer. I really do like this. I think this is wonderful. This has very much that same silicone sort of texture as the Smashbox original photo finish, so it's just straight silicone. This one comes in a squeeze tube, and when you blend it out, it doesn't look like the Smashbox, but when you blend it out, it creates the smoothest canvas for your makeup. I said this in my last video, it's kind of like blending your makeup on over silk. It just creates the smoothest possible canvas. I love it so much. And another one that I really love, and I actually haven't used in quite a while, but I used to reach for it every single day, is the Touch in Sol Pretty Filter Glassy Skin Balm. I actually really love this, and I need to start reaching for it again. So you can see this one has a ton of use out of it, and this one is kind of like a cream. It literally gives you that glassy skin effect under your makeup. So your skin looks so juicy and hydrated, and your skin is going to be very glowy. So if you're not into glowy skin, glowy makeup, I would not recommend this one. I think you can only get this either on their website or on Look Fantastic, but I absolutely recommend this. I think it's one of my favorite primers of all time. And for a while, I honestly did forget about it, but this has to be one of my favorites because I am going to be leaving this one out to use more. So foundation. The first one I wanted to mention is one that I have actually used up, so I don't have anymore, so I'll pop up a photo, and this is the Catrice True Skin Hydrating Foundation. This one, I do have a full review and wear test of this one up here on my channel. I also put this in a project pan last year. I love this foundation so much. This foundation is very full coverage. It describes itself as being medium to full, but I always found it to be a little bit more toward full coverage. It's not a foundation you're going to wear if you're looking for a very skin-like finish, because it's one that definitely looks like makeup, but it doesn't feel heavy. It doesn't look too heavy. It doesn't look too much, but it really does perfect the skin so incredibly well. Wearing this foundation always made me feel so super flawless, so I do really miss it, but that is still one of my very favorites. It did get bested by the NARS Light Reflecting Foundation though. This is my current favorite foundation of all time. The Catrice is a close second, and third would be the one I'm going to speak about next. So this one is just incredible. This one is actually getting very nearly done. It is down to here right now, so I don't have much left. This will definitely be a repurchase when I'm done with it. I just love the way this looks on my skin. There is no other foundation that blends out as easily as this one. I just love this. I feel so pulled together and pretty when I wear this. I love that. The shade is Mont Blanc. In the Catrice, I had the shade Cool Cashmere. That was my shade. This one is Mont Blanc, and it's absolutely perfect. I love this foundation so much. The third foundation was one that was a little harder for me to choose. I initially considered the Say Glowy Super Skin Foundation. I also almost considered the Haus Labs, which is what I'm wearing today, because the Haus Labs can really give you a more full coverage effect. But knowing myself the way I do, I pulled out the Makeup by Mario Surreal Skin Foundation. This is really good. So this one is a medium coverage. This one is glowy like the Say, but not quite so glowy. The Say is almost a little bit too much. The Makeup by Mario I just think is so beautiful and creates such a beautiful radiance and luminosity to the skin. This one stays with me all day. The packaging is absolutely stunning. I really do love this one. I think it's fabulous. This is another one that blends out easily. It just looks great, and I just love how it makes my skin look and how it makes me feel. So I really do love this one. The House Labs almost made it. I think the Makeup by Mario just pulled ahead simply because it's a little bit more hydrating. And I really need that given that I have very dry skin, but the House Labs also plays very well with my dry skin. So it was a close one, to be honest. Okay, for concealer, the first one I'm going to mention is one I've actually used up, so I'll just pop up a photo. This is the One Size Turn Up the Base Butter Silk Concealer. This was my favorite for the longest time, and I still think it's a really beautiful concealer. It is full coverage, it blends out so easily and seamlessly. It works with any foundation. It's a little on the heavier side compared to some of the others that I have, but I wouldn't say that it's in general a heavy concealer. But if you do go overboard on application, it can feel a little bit heavy and look heavy. However, it is a beautiful full coverage blendable formula, and I do miss having it in my collection. I was using it to spot conceal for a while. The concealer that recently took its place though is from Natasha Denona, and this is the High Glam Concealer. I was not expecting to love this the way that I do. This one is more of a medium coverage. First of all, the packaging is absolutely gorgeous. The lid is that soft touch matte, and then you get this rose gold detail right here, which I think is really nice. You get this really nice doe foot as well. What I like about this, as opposed to the One Size, is that it is a little less coverage, but it's just thinner, it's more lightweight, it's more hydrating. So for that reason, I do like this more. This one is perfecting without being too much. And I think this just always looks great on my under eyes. This also creases less than any other concealer that I have used, so I've been really loving this one. Another new one that I added to my collection this year is the other one I need to mention as a top favorite, because I was using this consistently until I got the Natasha Denona, and now it's been a flip-flop between the two. This is the Very Valentino concealer in the shade Light Rosy 1. I forgot to mention my shade in the Natasha Denona is N1. So Light Rosy 1 in the Valentino concealer, this is very similar to the Natasha Denona in that it is lightweight, it's very hydrating, it's very creamy, it has a unique shape to the doe foot. I think the packaging on this is also beautiful, and they're very similar. The reason Natasha pulled ahead is because I find it just blends a little bit quicker. I've recently figured out that the Natasha concealer blends out best with a brush, and so does the Valentino. They're very similar formulas. But for some reason, Natasha sticks out to me. I think it just blends out a little bit quicker and it creases just a tiny bit less. And I think that's why she pulled ahead, but they're both in my top 3. Moving on to setting sprays. So if you're familiar with my channel, you already know my top favorite is the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Setting Spray. I love this one. This one is incredible for setting your makeup into place, making sure it's not going anywhere, but also providing hydration to the skin, helping your makeup all sort of melt into the skin and melt together and just look flawless. This is so amazing. I've honestly so many times described this one as a perfect hybrid between the MAC Fix Plus and the Urban Decay All Nighter. You get the benefits of both in one bottle. I love this. A similar effect is from the Lawless Glam Guard. So one thing I didn't mention about the Charlotte Tilbury is, first of all, I've gone through multiple bottles of this, but the mister is also really good. I've never had a faulty mister on this one. The Lawless Glam Guard is another one that I absolutely love. This one has the finest mist I have ever seen on a setting spray. This is also very long wearing, not drying, but the mister kind of goes a little bit wonky and gets a little bit messy. So that is why it's not quite on par with Charlotte Tilbury, but it's also a really amazing setting spray. It's also a fraction of the price. So you could always just pour this into a different bottle and use a different mister. The mister on this is wonderful when it works. And that's another category where I only had 2. Quickly discussing powders. I have 3 powders here. One is a powder foundation, the other 2 are just regular powders. The first one is the Maybelline Superstay 24 Hour Hybrid Powder Foundation. I have the shade 102. This is the best powder foundation I have ever found for dry skin. I have been on a mission to find a good powder foundation for dry skin because that is really, really hard to find. For a while there, I was pretty sure there was just no such thing. This is the best one I've found yet. And I love this because it is so full coverage, but it is so comfortable. I love using this to add a little bit extra coverage on days when I really need it. I did that today. Some days I'll just put concealer where I need it, and then I'll use this all over the face, and I'm good to go. I just think this is such an all-purpose powder foundation. I love it so much. It can be a powder, it can be a foundation, it can be whatever you need. It's so great. It provides so much coverage. It's not heavy. It's very lightweight. It doesn't cling to dry patches. It just does what you need it to do. So I absolutely love this one. I also absolutely love the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Brightening Flawless Finish powder. So she has the regular airbrush powder, which is one I was going to pull today until I remembered that I love this one so much more. This one is incredibly brightening. I love this one so much. I love this one more than the original just because the brightening properties are incredible. When I need my under eyes to have that extra brightness when I'm a little extra tired, this is what I reach for because it's going to make me look like I got a really good night's sleep. So I absolutely love this powder. I think she did such a great job on this one. And the last powder is the Kosas Cloud Set in the shade Airy. So this one I love because it is the most lightweight powder there is. It is so finely milled that it never adds any sort of heaviness to the makeup. You can barely even tell that you've put this on. It doesn't look like anything. It just melts right into the skin, sets your makeup. It's completely undetectable and I absolutely love it. This is one of the best powders there ever was, in my opinion. Getting into blushes and bronzers, I thought about doing separate categories for cream blush, cream bronzer, and then powders, but I decided to really force myself to narrow it down, which maybe wasn't fair to myself, but which made it really hard. But I thought for the sake of keeping this video relatively short, I'll just really narrow it down to top 3. So for blush, the first one I pulled is the MAC Glow Play Blush in Blush Please. So this is probably one of my favorite cream blush formulas. This one I love, especially the shade, because it's a beautiful muted rosy shade. It's just very, very flattering. This formula in particular is incredibly easy to work with. It is bouncy, so when you press into it, I don't know, for whatever reason, that texture really amuses me. I love this blush so much, one of my all-time favorites. The way this just applies to the skin, it almost gives that glow from within kind of look. It's not glittery, it's not sparkly, but it's also not super shiny. It literally just looks like it is a natural flush, and I absolutely love this. Next is another cream blush that I've recently fallen in love with. I've been a powders girl for so long, and all of a sudden I'm just coming in with these cream blushes, cream bronzers. But next is the Rose Ink Lip and Cheek Color in the shade Delphine. I love this formula. This formula is really nice. So Delphine is more like a peachy shade, which I also love. I've been really loving peach blushes. And this one is creamy, but it's a little bit more on the stiff side compared to some of my other cream blushes. It's not quite as melty, so it's hard to go overboard with this. This just creates the most beautiful blush look, very similar to the MAC, is that it can really give you that glow from within, natural flushed kind of look. So I really enjoy that about this. I would consider picking up more shades in this formula in particular. For the longest time, I didn't pick up these shades because I really don't like the packaging. But the product inside is absolutely amazing. And the last blush I need to mention is from Pat McGrath, and this is her Divine Blush in the shade Flirtatious. This is another one I mentioned very recently. This is one of my all-time favorite blush shades. This is just so flattering. This is kind of like a very muted mauve-y blush, which is kind of my favorite type of shade. I have this one on today, layered on top of something else, but I just love how this blush looks because it's muted. It's kind of very neutral and it can go with any kind of look. So if I ever don't know what to do, I just reach for this one and I know it's gonna work. So I absolutely love this. I think Pat McGrath did an amazing job on her blush formula. These are also incredible incredibly long wearing. So I really, really love this formula. We just have bronzers and highlights. So strangely enough, I only picked out one powder bronzer, and this is one I've spoken about many, many times. This is the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. I still have the old packaging, but I have loved this bronzer so much. I love the tone. I love that it's not overly pigmented, so I can build it if I want to. I love the scent. I just love how silky and blendable it is, and it just looks so beautiful. But my absolute favorite cream bronzer is the Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin Sun-Kissed Glow Bronzer. This is, first of all, in a massive compact, but there's just something so flattering about this one. This is kind of more of a moussey formula. It's a little bit more stiff, but there's something about the tone on this one. It is a little bit more cool tone, so if you're into the whole bronzer type thing, this one will definitely work for that. This one also blends out so easily and seamlessly. It's very flattering. I don't think her shade range is very good, but the way this blends out, it just blends like a dream. I love this so much, and I love the structure it gives my face. It really just shapes my face so well. And the last cream bronzer I'm going to mention is going to be a surprise, because for the longest time my top favorite was the Say Sun Melt cream bronzer, and I do still love that one. But the NARS Laguna Bronzing Cream did overtake that one, and I have the shade Laguna 01. In the Charlotte Tilbury, I have the shade 1 Fair, but this is the NARS Laguna Bronzing Cream. This is another one that is less oily feeling than the Say, but less moussey than the Charlotte Tilbury. It's kind of similar in texture to the Charlotte Tilbury, honestly, but it's a slight bit more creamier. You can tell the shades are very similar as well. This is another one, it just blends out so incredibly well. I really do enjoy that more moussey consistency, that moussey texture. I just think it makes them incredibly blendable and seamless on the skin, so I do enjoy that. Getting into highlighters, so I'm going to start with the oldest first. The Revlon Skin Lights highlighter in the shade Daybreak Glimmer has been a favorite of mine for years at this point. I love this one. This is a really beautiful champagne highlight. Look how shiny that is. If you do not like a very blinding highlight, I would maybe pass on this. But this one is so smooth. This has to be one of the best highlighters at the drugstore. I find it so flattering on the skin. I think it's so pretty. When this first came out, I heard a ton of people talking about it, and now I never hear anybody talk about it. But I think we still should be, because it's absolutely amazing. Next is the Charlotte Tilbury Glow Glide Face Architect Highlighter. I have the shade Moonlit Glow. This one came out at the beginning of this year, and this is one I also love very much. This is another more of this type of champagne shade. This is just what works on my skin tone. And this is potentially one of the smoothest highlighters I have ever used. It's not glittery. It just creates such a beautiful highlight, such a beautiful sheen. This is the one I'm wearing today, and I just love how it looks. I love how it seamlessly blends into my other products. It makes me feel so pulled together. I absolutely love it. The only thing I don't like about this is the way the highlighter itself kind of spins. I feel like that does cheapen the product a little bit, but it is still one of my favorite products. And lastly is the newest highlighter to my collection, and one I didn't want to love as much as I do. This is the Rare Beauty highlighter in the shade Enlighten. It took me forever to get my hands on this. This came out at the same time as the Charlotte Tilbury, but I chose to review Charlotte Tilbury's instead, and it took me forever to get my hands on the lightest shade. Okay. So it just got dark in here because I just lost power for the third time today. But I do want to finish filming this video, so I will swatch it here, but I also will pop in an overlay photo just in case this is not clear enough. But I love this one because it does have that sort of gel-like quality to it. It's incredibly smooth. It's a lot more intense and shiny than the Charlotte Tilbury. Sometimes I really like that. I'm here for the super shiny highlighters. But that is it for me today. I'm sorry the last little bit of this video was without extra lighting, but let me know down below some of your favorites. I love hearing from you guys so much. I will have my top 3 in every category eyes and lips coming very soon, but thank you so very much for watching. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I do upload at least 3 new videos every single week. Thank you again so very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!